morning, good afternoon actually to all of you here. To tell you something about myself, of course, very broadly speaking or briefly speaking, I'm a soldier turned educator. Been in the army for 34 years and had nothing to do with education at all. Quite uneducated myself because I joined the NDA after passing a metric exam. Until my staff college in 1983, I was considered quite an uneducated person. Never been to college, had no degree. But today I have some degree, so that part is over. Coming to 14 years ago, when I was chairman of the army school, something happened, and I'm not talking of that story, it's very well beaten by now. There was a small incident where changing the life in an army school brought me a lot of satisfaction. And when the head girl of the school one day came on the stage and acknowledged my work and gave me a scroll on which 800 children had signed a thank you note, I decided to leave the army and do something for children. So I opened my own institution, Empower Activity Camps, in a partnership with 4 of my cousins. And I'll now tell you what was in my mind, because now this is relevant to today's subject. It's also very relevant to the MBA for kids. In those 2 years that I was the chairman of the school and I dealt with children, as also when I stepped out and I was visualizing what is to be done and what are the challenges these children are facing and what do we need to do about them, I found that there were 2 very strong gaps. There were voids. One was, what does a student in a college think about the corporate world and what it turns out to be? And the second was the gap between what the colleges teach and what the corporates are looking for. Big gap. So I designed a program called College to Corporate. But before this happened, the fundamental question that came to my mind was, is our education system preparing people for life, or is it preparing people for exams? And the answer was, it prepares people for exams which have no way of assessing your retention. The marks will tell you that you are capable or you have knowledge on this subject today. But whether that will last till tomorrow or 1 month or 1 year, no examination system has been able to devise. What came to my mind also was that, imagine you are a very studious, serious student, and your parents, your teachers, your peers, everyone around you in your ecosystem, in your environment told you that marks are the most important things. If you don't get good marks, if you don't get 90% marks in today's world, in our case, they used to say 70, 80, you are doomed. Life is bad. Jute saaf karoge, sabzi bechoge. That is what the parents used to say, that if you don't do this, you're gone. And then I realized, when I used to talk amongst our people who are doing well, whether in the army or in the civil, and I asked people, how many marks did you get? I found that not necessarily the people who topped the exams were doing well. I found that normal average people were generally doing even better than the toppers in exams. I also found that in the army, we have a sword of honor given to the best all-round cadet passing out from IMA. And I found that very few of the sword of honors ever became generals. The reason was that there is no relationship between marks and life. Then it also occurred to me that if there's a very serious student who is going seriously in life, going according to what the norms are, he's studying hard, doing well in his exams, scoring good marks, getting very high marks in his school, so goes into a good college. Now, all colleges are good. There's no bad college. But when I say good, I mean a branded college. So he goes to so-called the high-end college. And then let's see, does very well there, and he goes into a high-end company again, which is very well known, gets a good job. But if he is the studious type, if he's a self-centered person, if he's not a team player, if he never learned how to make decisions, if he never learned even the basics of how to think, which no education system teaches us, no education system teaches us communications. They at the best tell you something about speaking. But communication is not speaking. No education system ever taught us how to listen. And when people come in the corporate world, I realize that listening is more of a challenge than talking. So what I realized was that if a person who's not a good team player, who doesn't perform well in corporate world, and his boss tells him, thank you very much, I think you have to leave because you're not performing. He says, sir, but I got 95% marks. And the boss says, sorry, I don't care. He says, what? All my life, last 12 to 15 years, people told me marks, 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 marks. And today you say you don't care. And then this boy realizes, and this is my crux of what I want to say, he is standing at the threshold of his life saying, what they taught me does not matter, and what matters they never taught me. Now, why I'm very highly impressed by what Anshav is doing is resonating with this thought which came to me 14 years back, and what Anshav is doing is actually reinforcing the same thought. Catch them young, teach them life. Knowledge is not a problem. Application of knowledge is a problem. The challenge is, do you apply what you learn? And today's children have understood this. Things are better. Education system has become better. I have studied the education system in the last 14 years a lot. And I very, very sincerely follow a person called Dr. Sugata Mitra. He talks of education like no other person talks about, and I'm highly impressed by what he says. And we need an education system where people are taught what life is all about. And life is not about marks for sure. So coming now to experiential learning. So when I came out of the army and I started my own place, I started with, I used to think, how do I manage these children? How do I give them value of life? And how do I make them good human beings? When I say good human beings, I mean people who can live a happy, successful, prosperous life. A life that they want to live. And what occurred to me was that they need to learn these life skills. Life skills, some people call them soft skills. I don't know why they call them soft skills. They're so hard to acquire, but we call them soft. They're very hard. Life skills, real life skills. Now, I designed a program in an outdoor environment when I understood that there is something called adventure and there is something called processed adventure. When you go and do rock climbing, rafting, or parasailing, when you do it for the thrill of it, you want to do it for your adrenaline, that is all pure adventure. But if you use that adventure or an outdoor activity as a tool for learning and use it to learn lessons from it, then it becomes processed adventure. So we started with this processed adventure. I very accidentally ran into something called experiential learning, and I ran into experiential learning, and there was something called AEE, Association of Experiential Education. So I've just put it in the chat box for your reference. There's a website there. So anyone who wants to know anything more about experiential learning must hit this website and see what they mean. So I understood the meaning of experiential learning, and I found that we all learn by experiences. But how do we put that into a structured, formal way of learning? let me tell you here that somewhere about 6-7 years back, I was asked to give a talk on experiential learning in a seminar which was being attended by principals of schools. There were about 60 principals of schools in Pune, and it was sponsored by Education World. And the subject given to me was introducing experiential learning in schools. And the first thing I said, I'm sorry, this subject is not correct. You don't have to introduce experiential learning, because even when I went to school, if I went to the lab for physics labs, physics experiments, or I did experiments in the chemistry lab, or even as a very young child, if I used scissors to cut pictures out of newspapers, that was experiential learning. So we don't have to introduce experiential learning, but we have to formalize it, enhance it, make it more effective. So now if we go into what is experiential learning, so let me, first I want to cover a few basics of what it is, what does it mean, and then I'll give you a few examples. This subject is not very apt for a dialogue like this. It is good when you're all actually going to experience something. But today, I will experiment with my own thought of something called virtual experiential learning, which means you're actually not experiencing it, but I'll ask you to use your imagination, and we'll do a little bit of question and answers. Please be ready to type out in your chat box or even come out on the video, and we're going to have some discussion. It's not going to be a lecture. So let me share my screen with you and show you one or two slides. I don't really like slides much, but still, sometimes I do use them. Okay, so let me use my... My apologies for this little technological flap, which always happens with me. Okay, so we've always heard of this very important saying by Confucius when he said, I hear and I forget, but what I see, I remember. I understand. Now, this is the basic of experiential learning. I always ask people, do you remember a burn? When you were a small kid and you were crawling to the kitchen, for example, and your mother came running behind you and said, don't go there, you'll get burned. Did you know the meaning of burn? You didn't. And you went and touched a hot stove or a vessel and you burnt your finger. Did you ever go up to your mother and ask her again, Mommy, can you please explain to me what's a burn? No, that one little experience when you were an infant taught you a lesson for life. So that one experience of burning told you how to remain away from fire or from hot objects. Similarly, when you learned cycling, balancing on a cycle was something that you did experientially. Can you learn it if I give you a handout and say that this is the way you learn cycling? So supposing I gave you a handout which said, it gives you the shape of a cycle, a drawing. It is labeled. It says these are these two wheels. This is the saddle. This is the frame. These are the pedals, etc., etc. And if I tell you sit on the cycle, divide your weight 50% on the left and 50% on the right. And then I put a footnote there, not 49 and 51, it has to be exact 50%. Then I tell you that put your feet on the two pedals. One pedal will be higher, the other one will be lower. Push the upper pedal down, the lower pedal will come up. Push that pedal down, again the lower pedal will come up. Keep doing it continuously and you will cycle. Will that handout be able to teach you cycling? No, you will have to experience it. But once you experience cycling, and if you haven't done cycling for 10 years, and I give you a cycle, you'll still be able to do it because you learned it experientially, you'll never forget it. Whether it's swimming, cycling, anything. But if I ask you, do you know the Pythagoras theorem, which you studied in school? The answer generally will be no, unless you are at the moment in your life doing something technical where it comes into use. But then those people who raise their hand and say, yes, I know Pythagoras theorem, then I say, can you write a short note on Battle of Panipat? Point is, what we learned in the class, we forget because we didn't use it. But what I experience in my life, I never forget. So therefore, it is important that we understand this concept. Now, this is something called the experiential learning cycle. And I'm going to, although the slide is here, but I'm going to show you, you can have a good look at it. I'll come back to it probably, but I will like to explain this to you on a flip chart. Okay, so I was saying that in our life, we keep having experiences every moment. But sometimes we learn from them instantly, like I told you in the case of a burn, that you got burned and you learn instantly. But sometimes we don't learn instantly and we think about it. We reflect, we think about what is, I hope you can see the board. Is this diagram visible?
Very well, sir, very well.
So, for example, if I am taking a flight to Delhi from Bombay and I go to the airport and I find that I have missed my flight. Now, I'm just thinking about why did I miss my flight? When I'm thinking that, that is reflection, that I've had an experience and I'm reflecting, which also from the other thing you said experience, thinking, reflecting, whatever you call it, is the next step. Now, once I'm thinking, further step is that let's say I meet Anshav on the airport and he says, so what happened? And I said, I missed my flight. So he said, why did you miss your flight? I said, there was so much of traffic in Juhu Gali, so I missed it. He says, sir, क्या ये आज पहली बार जुहू गली में ट्रैफिक हुआ है? वहाँ तो होता ही है. You should have catered for it. No? You know that Bombay mein traffic is bad. So did you cater for traffic congestion and why couldn't you leave home a little earlier? Now this is called recording. That means whether I write it or I speak about it or I discuss it with somebody is called recording. Right? And after that, when I learn a lesson from it, it is called processing. That I am going to process this information and I tell myself that, see, I should not depend on clear roads. There will be traffic congestion and therefore every time I move out of my house, I must cater for traffic congestion. This is a lesson which I've learned out of this experience, and in my next experience, I will apply this lesson. So whether I'm going for a football match or I'm going for a wedding or I'm going for a training event, I will now, having learned from this experience, use this experience in my next activity. So it is not a cycle really speaking, it is a spiral. It goes into, every experience goes into another experience, another experience. Now, this is, if you go, actually Kolb cycle, if I have to teach you properly, would take probably 2 hours. And there's a lot on Kolb cycle, and after Kolb cycle, David Kolb came out with this concept somewhere in 1850 or something. Hundreds of people have come out with conflicts, controversies, etc. But still, after all those controversies, nobody has been able to overrule it, and Kolb cycle still stands. What I have told you is something which I made so simple. The simplest form of Kolb cycle is this. Otherwise, there are more complicated versions. If you go to Google and you see, you'll find there are different ones. But because I used to do this for every program, whether for children or for corporates, I made it into a very simple one. Now I'll tell you that when I started doing experiential learning, and a lot of my friends also from the army were doing similar outbound training programs, I found that after an activity was over, and this they used to come back and facilitate what we call a debrief. And in the debrief, normally it would be, okay, what happened? Let's share. And then somebody said something and somebody said something, and from there the discussion carried on. What I discovered after I was going a little deep into the golf cycle, if there are 40 people in my participant class, I found that about 10 of them will speak, and 30 of them, out of 30, another 10 may just do two things. And there may be 20 people who never opened their mouth. I am not sure whether those 20 people actually were in reflection mode or not. Did they reflect? I'm not sure. So I started something which I want to share with you, and this is totally my own experiment. It has worked very well. So for those who want to try it out, can try out. What we do in training and using experiential learning is that we have an activity, and I love to call it a game. A lot of trainers say don't call it a game, it dilutes the importance. But I feel the moment you say game, people take it more, they're more receptive, they're more enjoy. So you do an activity, and an activity is normally designed to bring out a particular lesson. For example, if I want to teach communications, I will create an activity or a game around communications where things would be would need for a message to be communicated. And then instead of going on a PowerPoint and say these are the barriers, here you will say what happened, what didn't come up, and the result would be, okay, these are called communication barriers. So when people have experienced it, it is far, far more effective. You retain it, you understand it, and you carry it with you longer than what you would do if you just try to understand it virtually. Okay. Now, after you've done the activity, when you come back, instead of getting into a discussion mode straight away, I use this experiment that I gave everyone a small piece of paper, and I call it the individual reflection sheet. So everyone needs to write here what did he learn from this? Not learn, but what happened in that day. So there's a format to it. And it takes 3 minutes, nothing more. In 3 minutes, he has to just write down a few things. That means for 3 minutes, I'm making the person go into reflection mode. All 40 people will reflect, unlike in the other case where I was not sure how many people would reflect. Then I make them sit in their teams, and they do something called small group learning. Now in the team, I ask people, okay, talk amongst yourselves and say what happened that should have happened, what didn't happen that should have happened, and how could you have done better? Now this is a very, very intensive, high learning session where people are not learning from an instructor. That is why we call it facilitation, it's not teaching. So what happens is here, in the group, people talk about it, and they discuss, they exchange ideas, they exchange their experiences, and then it comes to where now the facilitator comes in. Now he comes and asks some more questions, tries to get more experiences or lessons out of it, and then very subtly, please understand this, very subtly related to real life situations. Many people do a mistake of saying straight away, like a direct connection or a direct question doesn't happen in your company. One should avoid try to avoid that, because we want this subconscious mind to absorb the experience and relate it to real life very subtly. So a strong connection is made when you don't make it very direct, and yet, so that is where the experience of a facilitator comes in. That is why every trainer cannot be a facilitator. and everyone conducting this activity, lot of people, when I do a trainer program called the TTST, lot of people tell me, sir, teach me more activities. And I tell them these activities can be done. I've got 40 activities which I do. I've got a chart of them. My 10th class failed person who assists me can also do that activity. Conducting an activity is no issue. So if I tell you how to conduct an activity, it only means that you should be able to explain the rules and have it conducted. So I would say why a trainer gets or a facilitator gets paid more or is more effective is when he learns the art of using the school cycle and the experiential learning well and learns the art of facilitation, which could be the next subject, Ansha, when we do it. Because experiential learning alone does not work till you also learn the art of facilitation. And when you do that, the results are phenomenal. So when I give a guarantee to a corporate house and say, I will be able to reform your teams, build high performance teams, and I guarantee that the performance of your team will become better, it is because of the effectiveness of this system. So that is all what I wanted to say about experiential learning. I could give you an example and tell you a little more if there is time, but I'm not sure how much time there is. So I can take about 5 to 10 minutes to tell you something if there is time.
Okay, so sir, I think we have Nahid on call. She has another coaching session. So Nahid, if you are okay, can we extend this for 10 minutes or you want to continue?
I can do it after she has finished with the session.
I would love to have some learning from sir here. So absolutely fine with me. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much, Nahid.
Most welcome.
And thanks for joining. So by the way, Nahid is joining from Dubai. So, and you know, she has so many assignments right now going on. And she's going to talk about a very important topic, and I think, sir, you will like it. It's about public speaking by children. So we will share a lot of common thoughts around that.
Oh, very good.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so now I'm going to take you to a virtual situation, and I want each one of you to now open your blinkers, open your antennas, listen to me, think, and then I want some answers. So whether, now that I leave Ansha to whether you want it to be done on the chat box or you want it, because there are very few people I can see, we can even do it on a video.
Yeah, I think video and audio is fine.
Sorry?
Video and audio should be fine.
Okay, so then you control that part of unmuting people who want to say something. I want all of you to imagine that there are 40 people in a team and we have subdivided them into 4 teams, call them A, B, C, D. We have taken them to an outdoor area where there is a 9-foot wall. This wall is 9 feet high, about 10 feet wide, and about 2 feet in width. Each of the teams is told, so I'm telling you if you're a team leader, the task is for the entire team to go across to the other side of the wall. The rules are, you can't go from the side, so you have to go from top. Secondly, all members of the team need to reach the other end. 3, you cannot use any experience, no ladders, no ropes. You can, whatever people are wearing, if you want to pull up somebody from his or her collar, that's fine. But you cannot use a girl's dupatta as a rope and use it. So those are the type of 3 rules that we give. And then we ask them, how much time do you think the 10 people, there's a team of 10 people, how much time will you take for the entire team, which means the last person also has to go across? How much time will you take? So the question is open to you. How much time do you imagine a team of 10 people taking to climb up a wall which is 9 feet high and go to the other end? And on the top it is 2 feet wide. So let me know, how much time do you think it will take?
I think think at least 30 to 40 minutes.
Okay, anyone else? I want each one of you to please raise your hand or write on the chat box, whatever. How much time do you think it will take?
Each of you can unmute yourself and talk.
I think everyone is muted, so they will not be able to say anything.
I think, I mean, I'm part of an army training, and this part is something which I did see when I was in Barnes. In fact, something which I did experience a little bit of it, not the entire, not at this level, but in all probability, it could take somewhere around maximum of 10 to 15 minutes, maximum for everybody to cross.
Okay, let's have Raina say it. I know Raina may have heard about it. I don't know.
Not sure, sir. I have heard about it, but yeah, I've heard people discussing about this. I think it should take about 10 minutes. I'm not sure.
Okay, Nahid?
I agree, around 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, so when I did this activity with this first time with a company, I got 4 teams answers, which were something, I don't remember exact, but I'm just giving you arbitrary. They were about 15 to 25 minutes. All the 4 teams said something between them. I said, then let's try it out. Let's try it out. So they said, can we see a demo? I said, after the first attempt. So the first time, the first team took something around, no, they wanted a demonstration and I gave them a demonstration. When I gave them a demonstration, I was not prepared for it. We don't do demonstrations, but because they asked for it, I said, okay, we'll give you a demonstration. So what I did, I had 3 trainers with me there, 3, 4 maximum. And I collected 3, 4 more people. So it was early morning. So I saw the milkman coming into the camp. So I called the milkman. Okay, then I called the security chap. Then I called a Mali. Okay, so all these 3, 4 people are not trainers, had nothing to do with this. They were absolutely like any layman, human being who had nothing to do with this. And I asked this leader, I said, quickly organize your team and show us a demo. Guess how much time that took? So this team
5 minutes?
Took a little less than 1 minute. Okay, 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, I'll show you a video, maybe you'll see in that. And then I told them, how much time will you take? And I told them also that if anyone takes less than 2 minutes, and the best team within 2 minutes is the qualifying time. So if you don't do it in 2 minutes, you get nothing. But if you do less than 2 minutes, the team gets a bottle of beer each. And the bottle of beer did the trick. And we got all the 4 teams finally doing it. One team did it around 2 minutes. The other one did about 5 minutes, something like that. The question is, what happens in experiential learning is that big lesson that came out was, who said 10 minutes? Who said 15 minutes? Was we, including you now. So that was your perceived capability and not your actual capability. Your real capability was 2 minutes, but you perceived it at 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. When you tell your people in your teams, in your company, I am doing my best. When you give 15 minutes, you thought you have given your best, but your best was actually 2 minutes. I do a similar activity called passing the ring, where everyone will normally come out with 20, 25, 30 minutes and they do it in less than a minute. So there are 2 activities which I can show you. One, I think I'll show you right now. I've got it on a video. I'll show you a quick 3 minutes video on that. And the second one, I will give you, there's something called the ball game. I'll give you a YouTube video link. Have a look at this. And I think at the end of it, you will understand what I mean by effective experiential learning whether indoor or outdoor. It creates a great feeling that, oh, I could do it. Let me tell you another quick virtual activity which I do when I'm not in a ground. When I've got 100 people or 200 people sitting in a hall and there is no space for any activity. So I do an activity which lasts 5 minutes. Would you like to know that? This activity is called Fly High. It's called Fly High. I give everyone a small post-it chit, a sticky note, and I ask them to write their name beautifully on it. Big, nice name with sketch pens. And then I say, I'll give you exactly 3 minutes for you to stick this at the highest possible place. Okay. I'm coming again. I give them the sticky note and I ask them, please stick this at the highest possible place. And when I'm saying highest possible place, physical place. Some people put it on their forehead and say, my thinking is the highest in the world, or things like that. I'm not talking of those virtual things, and I'm not talking of metaphors and all. I'm talking of physical height. I want to see where your name is at the highest possible place. Can you please unmute everyone one by one, Anshav? Let me ask everyone, where would your chit be? Where would your chit be and how would you do it? 3 minutes.
I am not attempting because I know the answer, but
Okay,
let others
please don't attempt.
do that.
Anyone who knows the answer, please don't attempt. Yeah, Anil, let's hear you.
Where would you point on your body? Or
sorry?
Is it open? Are we talking about just on the body, the highest possible place, or could this be anywhere? Like, for example, body, I'm thinking.
It could be anywhere, Anil. It could be anywhere, Anil. Not on the body.
Okay.
Any highest place possible near around you. And you have
if anything is possible, I'd go on a plane.
Plane?
Or a helicopter.
Okay.
You've got 3 minutes. You have got 3 minutes to post your or paste your chit somewhere.
The limit is the time, Anil.
I will post it on the opposite wall. Where I'm sitting, there is an opposite wall. I'll post it there.
Very good. Anyone else?
I will post it at eye height. So if I'm looking straight.
Okay. Anyone else?
Naeed, you want to attempt?
This is a tricky one. And I'm just trying to think that the answer is going to be very simple.
No, it's not tricky. And what do you think happens in a room? What happens in a room? Okay, Naeed, tell me, where would you put it?
That's what I'm saying.
Eye height. I would think
that this is a very tricky one. Because the answer is supposed to be something very simple. It's not supposed to be, up on the wall. Yeah, probably I'd just pull up a chair, go pick up. I mean, the quickest thing that I could do is just pull up a chair, get up on the chair and paste it the highest place that I could probably reach at that point of time.
Very good, very good. So I did this activity in Muscat. There was a program in Bank Muscat and they had their SME clients. And the roof of that hall was a type of a dome. And I think at the highest point, it must have been 25 feet high, right? And I was told, don't do any activity in which a man has to touch a woman. So do you think this activity requires a man to touch a woman anywhere? They said not even a shake hand. But I've got a picture of an Arab woman who asked to be lifted, and there were at least 6 hands on her bumps. Okay, where people lifted her because she wanted to put the thing at the highest possible place. Right. One person went, brought a rod, a big rod, about 20 feet or 15, 20 feet rod, put the chit on the top and then did this and got it at the ceiling. Do you think they got the prize?
Sir, just
no, they didn't.
Sir, before you reveal the answer,
to a person who just
sir, before you reveal the answer, hold on. I think there was some other answer which was coming in. Inderpal Singh, I am Singh, sir, thanks for joining. Do you have some answer on this? You were trying to talk.
The highest that I could jump. The highest that I could jump.
You could jump. Yeah, you can jump. Nobody No stopping
so
to.
probably the highest place that I could reach, probably.
Okay. Right. So the prize went to the person who opened the door, went out, took the elevator and went and stuck it at the 13th floor.
In 3 minutes.
Okay. Now point is, this activity takes 3 to 4 minutes to do. But I take 10 minutes on the debriefing. And that is what is important. Have you closed your doors in your life? Have you in your life focused on only walls and ceiling? Did I ever say in this room? I said, where can you stick this at the highest possible place? The only limit was 3 minutes. Can you go to the 13th floor in 3 minutes and come back? Yes, you can. The point is, do I in my life struggle hard and complain like Kodak must have done and Nokia must have done? हमने इतना मेहनत किया, मेरू कैब्स ने बहुत मेहनत किया, leaders in the market came, did lot of मेहनत किया कि मैंने टेबल के ऊपर चेयर रखी like Nahid did. Nahid put a chair on a table and then got onto it. That Arab lady had 10 people trying to lift her, and people make pyramids. All type of things happen. There's a lot of physical work. But the person who won, who went the elevator of success, did not do any mehnat. That is what life today is. So now when you bring this lesson, I think in those 5 minutes it brings about because people experienced it. So if I tell you a whole lot of stories on a PowerPoint about what Kodak did and what this happened and what Britannica encyclopedia did and how they failed, that doesn't sound as great as when you come across and say, oh my God, why didn't I think of it? And I said, no, please open the doors and windows of your life and don't make your life limited with the doors and the windows. So now let me show you this video, if I can screen. Sorry? Did somebody say something?
No, I just muted the others. I think there was some background noise.
How do I put a video here? Just a minute.
So your screen is shared. You can just share and open your video. Open any video.
I had opened it just now. Wait a second.
Nahid, are you okay?
No. I'll be able to do it like this. Just
Nahid,
a minute.
You have time for 5 more minutes. I think it will take 5 more minutes.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Click the button to download and get started.
Just a minute. I think I'll get it like this. youtube.com. History.
आप सब नहीं तो आप सब सुनो मेरे राय ये है हम दोनों पहले इसको उठा के हाँ मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ कि बी एट द बेस सी ये बैठेगा नंबर 2 है ये बैठेगा नंबर 2 है ये है फिर हम लोग इसको उठा के फिर नंबर 2 पे बैठेंगे उनको खींचेंगे ये है मेरे को नीचे ऊपर आ जाएगा फिर आपको हाइट है ना सो दैट बिफोर यू स्टार्ट The time starts now. Good, fast.
Can you share the link of the video with us and we can watch it and you can at least conclude the session.
One by one, just unmute everyone just to say in about 30 seconds, what did you feel about the entire session and about the impact that this experiential learning would have?
You have to think out of the box.
Okay, great.
So imaginative as a team.
Let's quickly, one by one, just say something and then we'll close the session.
My point is, until unless you try something, you will not be able to believe it. So try, do it, then you can believe what it takes.
But my focus is on saying that when you use experiential learning in your trainings, do you think that this type of learning, when given to students, and now we are talking about the MBA for kids, now if children right in their young days were told this, what is the type of self-confidence they'll build up? What is the type of realization that they will have? What is the type of self-esteem that they will build up? These are the questions that we are trying to address today. That when we do it with adults and they find it very good, everyone has one question, I wish we had learned this 20 years ago. So I want your comments on that. Let's start with Ayaz. Ayaz, let's hear you.
Personally, my experience, I mean, when you talk about experiential learning, it's been different because I've attended different schools. So different schools, they teach differently. And in one of the schools where I was in Barnes, and I happened to learn a few activities physically. So it was a different kind of experience in which I had to actually do it to learn it. Like, for example, to learn, I mean, we were given a demonstration on martial arts, and we were told to, everyone had to do it. So for me, it was practical learning.
Yeah, but you for personally, yes, but I'm saying for today's learning environment, do we need to bring about experiential learning more, have more focus on this, and pull people out of their classrooms and make them go through this? Because what you saw in this wall, do you think it is possible for me in a classroom to bring about that feeling that you had? When you said that something you could do as a team in 20 minutes and did it in less than a minute, what is the type of feeling you would have? Oh, I've done it. I can do it. You know what happens is your own self-confidence goes sky high. And now that doesn't happen only in a wall activity. It'll happen in mathematics. It'll happen in physics. When you thought this sum was difficult, your subconscious mind says, oh, but I can do difficult things. I also thought wall was difficult and I did it. So I'm trying to ask you to relate to this type of a thing, that we are talking about relevance of experiential learning in our school environment. Yeah, Nahid, what do you have to say from Dubai? Is Dubai different?
No, nothing different out here. I have just, day before yesterday, done a workshop for young leaders here in Dubai, one of the best Indian schools, in fact. And it was during that time, yes, they were already in sync with the changes and with, doing to learn, but I made them do certain activities. And the most important, I had just posted about it on LinkedIn also. I made them do an activity on active listening, where I divided them into groups. And I said, let's try active listening. So when we listen, we basically listen to reply, right? And I told them that, I told one group to talk and the other group that you have to control your reactions. So when you feel that you would like to answer, you'd like to react, get yourself distracted. Pick up a hand, look somewhere else, do anything, but you will not say a word. Suppose that activity we choose for 3 minutes. Suppose that activity, the other group which was talking was like, ma'am, they were not interested. They didn't want to listen to us. And the other group was like, did you listen to what the other person said when I asked? And they could relate the whole thing to me. But, ma'am, it was so difficult to control the urge to reply. So that is a big learning which they got from the session. And I completely agree with you, Brigadier Basin, that, the moment when they do things, the learning is exponential. And it's like immediately, they learned it. When we tell them something, they might do it later, they might think about it, but the learning happens or not, we're not sure. When we make them do it, the learning happens this way. So now they know how to apply it. They could relate it with empathy, with respect, with humility, with compassion, with so many things. And that all including in leadership, with understanding that it's not just one person who's a leader, but it's everybody else who's a leader. Everyone is a leader in their own sense. So the learning happened, it would have taken 8 hours to do earlier. It just happened in a couple of hours. Like 2.5 hours, they were here. So
Incidentally, I wrote an article called LOL, Listen Out Loud. And that was active listening, because in corporates, I find one of the very big drawbacks in all teams is that nobody